Okay, today we are going to talk about the imposter syndrome and how we can eliminate the imposter syndrome using the LOVE formula. So first of all, we want to know what is it that is imposter syndrome, right? But before, okay, just give me a second. Okay, before we go to the next slide, I want to let you know who am I. So at least if you are the first time here listening to this Zoom meeting, so you may want to ask who is this person suddenly giving this presentation, right? So I just want to introduce myself. So who am I? Who am I? I'm help entrepreneurs. Okay, hold on. Just give me a second. I help entrepreneurs, business aligned with soul purpose. That is what I am going into. Oh, hold on. What's that?
Sorry.
For those who just come, can you help to unmute, no, mute yourself so that we can go smoothly on this presentation? Okay, thank you so much. So I want to share my journey and why this imposter syndrome is also resonate with me and also happening to all of us. Most of us female actually have this kind of imposter syndrome in a way that we sometimes don't believe in ourselves, or we have self-doubts of what we are capable of. So this is my journey. 23 years ago, I was working as a maid in Singapore to help family get out of poverty. And then the second picture over here is actually the result of my hard work of 2 years. Okay, I helped my parents to buy over the land, and also build the bamboo house to concrete house. So this is my biggest achievement on that 2 years at that time, because my purpose was going to Singapore is to actually alleviate poverty of my own family. And then after I helped my parents, I decided to actually upgrade myself by educating myself and study uh, accounting to get a diploma, because I want to be, in terms of, I want to be successful. So I have a very ambitious goal at that time. I want to study in Singapore and I want to be successful. And the only way for me at that time to upgrade myself is to use the education. So because I know that with education, I can actually accelerate my success. So that is the first thing that actually I took on as a upgrading myself. So, and also because I have vision of that, before I come to Singapore, I have a vision that I'm studying in Singapore. So therefore I follow my vision, because I always have this uh, gift that I will see a future like 10 years ahead or 20 years ahead of myself. So therefore I leverage on that vision and I just follow what I was guided to. And this is also the achievement that I had after working in office for 2 years plus. And I believe that I want to do something bigger. So I learned internet marketing and then learn on how to create a website and also advertisement and anything that got to do with internet marketing. I master it through self-learn and also some other courses. So then after that, my skills actually upgraded to lead generation instead of accounting. I know that I studied accounting, but I don't like accounting. So then I do what I love, which is marketing. I love marketing, and because I just love how to study human behavior. So therefore, marketing is one of the way for me to actually apply what I love to do. So that is my story. So today, what I want to share with you on how you can eliminate imposter syndrome by healing your unhappy inner child wounds. Because inner child wounds are the one that actually root cause of the feeling of being not good enough, or feeling of fraud. When people tell us that we are good, we don't believe in ourselves. So we are always judge ourselves by our own performance, right? So this is imposter syndrome. There are 5 types of imposter syndrome that I want to share with all of you today. What are the 5 types? The perfectionist. Okay, the perfectionist is a person with imposter syndrome that strives to be their absolute best, no matter the cost to their mental health. So the perfectionist actually within themselves, the underlying of perfectionist, right? The person actually has a belief system that they can only be perfect. They can only be impressed with their what they can do with their capability. But when you ask them to show their true self, their authenticity, right, they will start to feel that, no, I don't want to reveal my true self. I want to let people know what I'm capable of. So they always want to show the achievements. So that is the perfectionism. And usually what happens with a adult that has this perfectionism is they grow up in a family that is very critical. The family that is always want to be better and always look for the mistake. Okay, so the family that they are live in, the parents, the mother or the father, they always criticize the wrong things that they did. And then therefore this person, when they grow up, they become very OCD or perfectionist, because they feel that they cannot have any small mistake, because if they have mistake, it actually reflects of who they are, because they imagine, they self-perceive that they are perfect, but in actual inside them they are very vulnerable, and they don't want to show that vulnerability to other people. So they always show the upfront, the face of a capable person. And then the other number 2 type of imposter syndrome is superwoman or superman. Okay, this person may feel inadequate relative to colleagues and continue to push themselves as hard as possible, regardless of the consequences on mental, physical, and emotional health. So they push themselves so hard. Okay, they feel that they can do everything, even though sometimes they break down, the mental breakdown. They want to push themselves and show to people that they are very, very capable of doing many, many things. So therefore, they call themselves as superwoman or superman imposter syndrome. The natural genius is actually an individuals feel unworthy, guilty, and shameful if they cannot easily complete a task or achieve a goal on their first go. The first try, they have this high expectation of on the first try, they have to be successful, right? So if they are not successful on the first try, they feel that they are not worthy. So this natural genius, right, actually has a little bit of perfectionism in their traits. So they always push themselves so hard. And number 4 is the soloist. So the soloist is actually the field that others are not as competent as themselves. So this soloist, what happened is they have problem delegating, because they always think that they are the best. They are the one who can do the job. If other people do, it's not as good as they are. So, but in underlying of their action is they want to be seen as busy and as capable, because if they can do everything themselves, so they want to feel that feeling of worthiness in that company. So therefore, they always work late. They like to do things on their own, and they are not feeling good asking help from other people. And the reason they give is that people will not do as good as her other person, right? So therefore, the soloists usually tend to have this problem overwork, because they do want to ask for help. And then number 5 is the expert. This person may feel like they are less experienced than their colleagues or friends if they do not know an answer or have knowledge on certain topics. So with this kind of attitude, the person will know a lot of things on the surface, because they make sure that they have the knowledge to actually communicate with whoever that they are meet, colleagues or friends, because they want to appear as expert, and they know everything based on the surface. So they always learn. They are very hungry for knowledge. It's nothing wrong with that, but the only thing is that if they are not knowing the answer for one topic, right, they will start to question their ability. Actually, I'm not that smart. I'm not that capable. I'm not that expert, because I don't know this one thing. So they will start to question inwards of their incapability. So basically, to summarize what is imposter syndrome is what they portray outside, right? And inside is not congruent. So therefore, they have problem being authentic. They are not very authentic person because they want to portray how they want to be looked at on the outside. But if you ask them a very personal question, they get very nervous and anxiety because, oh, people going to find out who I am. I'm actually not that good. I'm a fraud, right? So this no understand the what is the cope mechanism of this called imposter syndrome. Usually what happens is that why they behave the way they behave is because underlying they have inner child wounds issue. When they grow up between 1 year old to 7 years old, their parents make them in a way that they behave that is they are not good enough. So therefore they have to prove they are doing so many things just to prove to the world that they are good enough. But they themselves inside them, they are not feeling good enough. So that's how the gap of the imposter syndrome and the authenticity of their inner self. So the key to eliminate your imposter syndrome is to heal your inner child wounds because that is the root cause. The root cause of why you feel the way you feel. I mean, I'm not saying you, I mean, why the person feel the way they feel is because their inner child wounds are not healed. So therefore, they are still living or reliving the memories of how they were treated at a young age and how they, based on their own experience between 0 to 7 or 1 to 7, they form their own belief about themselves, right? If they were born, I mean, if they were brought up by the parents that are very critical, they will develop this called perfectionism, right? They will beat themselves if they are not doing right thing. If they make one mistake, they will scold themselves. They'll be very hard on themselves. So because lack of that self-love, right, it becomes you portray outside because then you will, the person will be admiring their works instead of themselves. So they, whatever that they created or what the job that they created, they will admire the job very much. And they're very prideful of their work. And this is how they present to the world. They are not presenting to the world themselves, but rather their capability or their ability or their performance. So that is the perfectionism where the person grow up in the family that is very critical. Inside their head is there's always this inner critic that no, this is not acceptable, this is not good enough, and this is actually not excellence, you have to do it better. So this constant of the pressure of within themselves, right, it causes them mental breakdown. So how to heal inner child wounds were, how the inner child wounds were formed, right? So usually it happens from the parenting style our parents actually taught us, or our caregiver inflicted our inner child wounds. So because when we were young, we do not have the ability to filter what is good and what is not. Whatever we see, or all senses, or whatever we see in all senses, eyes, nose, ear, feelings, touch, whatever the experiences is actually all absorbed into our subconscious mind. And then that when you are 8 years old, then that's when you start to develop a coping mechanism where you need to protect yourself. So you create a belief or a rule to protect yourself from what you were feeling when you were a child. So how then this LOVE formula or framework or pillar, right, helps you to heal your inner child, right? Basically, LOVE is a pillar that include yourself, leader, you. You are the leader. So you is inclusive of your soul, yourself, okay? Self-perception, self-reflection, and self-awareness. So that is within you, right? So ownership is the attitude, is the response, and also the choices that you have made or the decision that you have made based on the belief and the values that you accumulated or that you created when you were young. And then vision basically is the ability to see the whole of pictures, right? So if you see yourself in your imaginary, your mental image of always looking back, or your mental image of looking or reliving back of the past rather than on the present moment, then that is when your thoughts create feelings, and that feelings create an action. So you go back to the attitude that is become a victimhood. But if your vision is able to see the possibility of your future self, and then you can create that possibility in the mental pictures, that's when you start to able to change your habits, and also it will therefore change your emotions, how you feel about yourself. So imposter syndrome is basically what you feel about yourself and how you portray yourself, or how you allow people to see yourself is totally different. There's misalignment between who you are and who you want people to see you. So therefore, you need to come back to yourself, because if you don't recognize or accept yourself or love yourself, right? Therefore, you will have this problem of feeling not good enough, a feeling have to meet other people's expectations, feeling have to prove to the world that you are not what they think you are. But if you are feeling centered of who you are, how you feel about yourself, how you see about yourself, and how present yourself to the world. Hi, Sunis, will you be able to mute it so that we can go through the presentation smoothly? Thank you. So what I'm saying is that if we ourselves presented to the world matching with what we believe who we are, then therefore imposter syndrome will not be actually displayed, right? So imposter syndrome basically a mask that we put on to tell people this is who I am, but you don't want to let people know who you are truly, but you want people to know that this is who I want you to see me, right? So that is why leadership or self is very important. Self-awareness, self-acceptance, self-love, self-compassion. These are the 5 of self that you need to actually address and adopt in your life. You have to change the way you feel about yourself. When you change the way you feel about yourself, then you no longer need to pretend to the world, right? You no longer need to crave for the knowledge to show to the world and prove to the world. Okay, so that is how we want to heal or eliminate the imposter syndrome, by healing our inner child. So here we have a ERROR framework to discover your unhappy inner child scars using this framework. So we always want to start with the same thing, E. E stands for effect, okay, or the consequences. How you usually respond emotionally around problems or challenge, right? For this imposter syndrome, usually I want to ask how you usually respond when you were given a new task and that task has a deadline. Okay, so that is the problem or challenge of the imposter syndrome. Were you feeling angry? Were you feeling stressed? Were you procrastinate, or were you feel anxiety? So if you can identify these emotions, okay, may not necessarily the 4 here, there are other emotions as well. If you have your own, you may want to write down that emotions, because this then will allow you to decode what are exactly the emotions that going through in your body, in your mind, right? So then you can have that self-awareness on how you can heal yourself. So then the question that you want to ask yourself, I feel, then whenever all this you have to fill up yourself. Okay, the next thing that I want you to do is reflect. Okay, how you usually reflect whenever facing problems, right? So I am, okay. You can say I am, what is the blank? Or I don't think, then what is the blank? So it's about how you feel about yourself and how you think about yourself. And this is something that you want to ask yourself. When you're facing a problem, how do you see yourself? Or how do you think you respond to this? Okay, the next R will be reject. What happens if you allow yourself to express your authenticity? Okay, so then you want to ask yourself, if I express my truth, people will, so you can fill in the blank. Because when you express your truth as an imposter syndrome, you will think so many times. People will judge, and then you start to hide again in the self, because I don't want people to judge me, right? In truth is that I don't want the childhood experience to happen to me again. That is another way of saying it. The obsession is, what are you obsessed about yourself? What is it that you obsess about yourself? Or how you obsess on what people think of you? I obsess in my performance. I obsess in my looks. I obsess in how I look. I obsess in how my performance. So then fill in the blank. The next is our request. Okay, what are you fear of asking? Okay. So for this imposter syndrome, they are very fear of asking for help. Because if they ask for help, they may get discovered that actually they are not that good, right? Therefore, fear of asking. So then the question will be, what am I fear of getting? Is it getting support or getting help? So how do we heal the imposter syndrome? How do we eliminate, right? We can eliminate by healing our relationship with our inner child, right? We have to address what was the emotion unmet when we were a child. And we want to address those emotions and heal those emotions. And we also want to reparent the child to look into a reality, right? Because they were living in the past, and then you bring the inner child into the current moment and then tell them that this has already changed. And whatever coping mechanism that they developed when we were a child is no longer supporting our adult life. So therefore, we need to delete those rules or coping mechanism belief system. So this is the expansion of the how this LOVE pillar can actually change the way we look at things. Because LOVE, we focus on self, right? We take 100% back the responsibility to ourselves. We are no longer giving the power of this subconscious mind to our other people. So we take back that subconscious belief system into our hand, into this consciousness we want to change. Because when we are aware that 50% is already done, so the other 50% we need to do the daily work. So L stand for leadership, is about self leadership, right? So then if you are the leaders and all the happenings to you is what it was a choice, known or unknown, right? So therefore you want to take back the ship. This is my ship, and I choose to lead the way I want to live. Whatever that I was programmed to, I'm going to take 100% of it, and I'm going to change and reprogram and rewire those belief systems that is no longer give me the purpose, or that's no longer serving me right now. So therefore, I choose to create a new habit, and I am in charge of my life. I'm in charge of how I look at myself. I am in charge of how I perceive myself. And I also in charge what will be my ideal self. I'm no longer giving the power away of how people might think of me, right? But I change the whole of the perception about who I am of right now and what ideal self I want to be. The ownership, okay, my attitude towards life. So this is the 100% responsibility that all things happen. It was our own choice. It was our own choice, known or unknown, whether we are a child or not, but we do make the choices. Okay. So therefore, we want to allow this attitude of 100% responsibility in all things, then so that we can change. As long as we are responsible, and therefore we have power, because power and responsibility, it comes hand in hand. You cannot be powerful if you don't want responsibility, right? So therefore, if you want to be powerful, take that responsibility, change your life. And that is the only way you can change the ship around. So I'm responsible how I respond to situations that require me to be calm and logical. So the vision, where am I in the next 10 years? Okay. See your potential self, right? If you keep seeing your past self, you can never be your different person. I mean, you can never be a different person by always thinking of your past self. And the only way for you to move forward is when you have the ability to create the possibility of who you wish to be in the future. So then you focus all attention on the potential possibility of who you are instead of what were happening to you in the past, right? Does that make sense? So therefore, what you want to say is, I'm allowing myself to express my divine truth. Why is this? This statement is because imposter syndrome is all about self-hiding. Okay, it's all about pretensions. So therefore, if you allow yourself to express your divine truth, right, your divine self, your divine love, then therefore you are no longer be bothered about how will people think of you and how will people see you as well. The next thing I want to say is emotions. What exact feelings when you are being yourself, right? When you are no longer need to pretend to be somebody else that you are not. How do you feel about that, right? So then you want to say this word, I'm allowing myself to feel enough and feel worthy and happy being who I am, right? So the reason why you have to act the way you act is because when you were a child, you have to become somebody, good boy or good girl, in order for you to get attention or to get praise from your caregiver or your parents. So therefore you learn how to be someone else that your parents or your caregiver wants, so that you can get what you want, right? By not being yourself. So 99% of the failures come from people who have the habit of making excuses. So if you choose to give up that habit of making excuses, therefore you can change, right? Because the only way, the bridge between who we were and who we are potentially to be is the excuse. It's the excuse not to do it, because change is not easy. And it's very easy to give up, to give an excuse, tomorrow, next year, next 5 years, when I'm certain age. So that is the bridge. If you can get rid of the excuse, and then no matter what, I'm going to practice and I'm going to be who I am in the future. I can practice of who I want to be potentially in the future. I don't want to look back of who I was, but I want to look forward to the future of who can I potentially be, or my ideal self. So you can do that, giving up excuse. When you're giving up excuse, that's when you can start to change by using DRIP framework. And this DRIP, you can do it yourself, by the way. And you need a daily actions. Okay, you need daily choices so that can have a good consequences at the end of 21 days, because we are rewiring our brain, we are rewiring our subconscious mind to focus on the potential self instead of your past self. So therefore, this require work. It's not difficult, but it's not easy either. It's just a need of discipline. Okay, so D stands for deprogram the story in your unconscious mind. So what story do you tell yourself when you look at yourself? And look at the mirror, and then what is the first impulse thoughts that come in your mind? Okay, I want you to look at the mirror, and the first thought that comes into your mind, what is it? And then I want to take note of that. Is it always changing, or is it always the same? So if you have that thought, then you want to delete it. You want to deprogram it. Okay. So this statement, I delete, uncreate, and deprogram the belief of who you are, is a delete button in your laptop. Now, do you see that delete button, right? It's actually this, the statement. When you press that delete button, it's actually pressing the memory in your subconscious mind. And if you keep doing it enough time, 3 days, you keep doing it 1 day, 2 times, keep deleting it. And after you delete, what you want to do is you want to reprogram, right? Rewire the program from your unconscious mind by visualizing the outcome. Visualizing the outcome. So why we want to visualize the outcome? We want to have a mental image in our mind to replace what we were experienced in the past, who we were thinking who we are, and want to change by visualizing your potential self of the feelings. So if you are not a imposter, right? So who you are then? So you are authentic, right? So then imagine yourself being authentic. Imagine yourself, you don't have to guts against other people's opinion, and you just can be who you are. You can be crazy and nobody is judging you. So then imagine accepting and allowing yourself to express your divine truth, because you are not just a human, you are actually multidimensional beings. Okay, your body is your third dimensional beings, and your mind, your mental is your fourth dimensional being, and your soul is your fifth dimensional being. So you are multidimensional beings living in human experience. If you see yourself that great, right, then you will not be looking back of your past experience and feeling victimized of what happening to you. And then the I stand for intimate with yourself by spending 5 minutes. Like just now, the first one, I want you to look at the mirror and look into your eyes, really straight into your eyes, and focus your attention on your middle between your two eyes. Focus the attention there, and then see how many minutes can you stand. Are you able to stand for 5 minutes? The first time, maybe you want to try 10 minutes. Every time your mind shifts into something else, you want to go back into that middle of the between the two eyes, and then take note of what you think about yourself, what you're thinking. Okay, the impulse thoughts that comes into your mind, or the images that comes into your mind, or maybe the voices that comes into your mind, or the feelings that comes into your mind. All those subtle kind of subconscious frequency, subconscious expression, right? You may want to take note. Why is it the first few seconds of the impulse thought that come in is usually a subconscious? So when you want to take the thought of that, but it's more than that. If you need to analyze, it's already conscious. So we don't want the conscious, we want the subconscious. We want to take note and delete, because you can de-story. You can actually delete those stories if you know what the stories that comes into your mind. Okay, and then after that, you want to have a mantra of I'm worthy of being myself. I'm fully and deeply and completely accept myself of who I am, not who I need to be, right? So that is what you want to do it. Do this exercise for 21 days. The daily think statement, you do it for 3 to 7 days maximum. And the visualizing of your potential future self or ideal self, and the intimate with yourself, do it minimum for 21 days every single day, just before you sleep and just after you wake up. This is because when you are in that state, your brain waves are in the low wave, not in the thinking, but it's in the semi-sleep, semi-awake. So that is very good time for you to install a new belief system or install a mantra for you to keep repeating on your own. You want to record the mantra that you want to allow yourself to listen to. Record on your phone, and then every morning what you need to do, the moment you open your eyes, you want to listen that mantra and put your earpiece into your ear, right? And then just start to listen. And because it's your own voice and it's direct right into the ear, so therefore the effect will be much more faster. And the P is personify, becoming the person you want to be, meaning you have your ideal self ready. You must do your homework. Who is your ideal self? Who you wish to become? If you were authentic, what kind of self do you want to be? That is you comfortable to be and also comfortable to introduce to someone else without fear of being judged, right? So then feel that person. So let's imagine that, let's say I want to be someone who is calm and happy. So then I will train my body to become and happy every day. Because so when I do that, right, I imagine that I'm already there. So this is actually how you train your body, because subconscious mind lies in your body, right? The memories in your body. So therefore you have to train your body to change in order for you to have full integration of your ideal self. It's not just only you think, but in your body as well, because you think is actually in the mental level, but it's not in the body, because as long as you are not putting into that body, it remain in the mental level, and anything is in the mental level is not considered realized, right? So therefore you have to bring down into this physical body, because at this moment your body is in the physical. So that is the end of the sharing for the imposter syndrome. And this, the door, your ideal self, right? There's a door there. The ideal self is waiting for you outside. The moment you take one step into that ideal self, you are living into your divine truth. So it's up to you. There's a door and you just need to walk in yourself. Nobody can walk for you, but you have to do it yourself. Nobody can change for you, but you have to change yourself, right? So when you change yourself, everything else around you will start to change. So this is my Facebook. If you want to connect with me and you have questions, you want to connect with me, you can actually connect my Facebook.